This boarded-up barn had numerous terrified eyes looking back at the lady who unlocked it. Susie Costin approached the abandoned and boarded-up barn in New York with caution on a chilly winter's day at the beginning of 2019. The animal rescuer was afraid for the worst, even though she had no idea what may be inside the run-down outhouse. But nothing could have prepared her for the astonishing scenario that unfolded inside. The first thing that faced her as she cracked open the door was the terrifying sight of innumerable pairs of frantic eyes peering out at her. Costin, who was born in West Virginia and currently resides in Ithaca, New York, is an extremely passionate animal lover, even by the standards of most people. Her workplace, the non-profit Farm Sanctuary in Watkins Glen, is not far from her house, which she shares with 2 dogs and 6 cats. In 1986, Farm Sanctuary was founded as a non-profit organization dedicated to farm animal advocacy, education, and rescue. At the beginning of the new century, Costin started working for the non-profit organization. Since then, she has contributed to advancing Farm Sanctuary's mission to eradicate animal abuse by raising awareness and taking decisive action. Currently serving as the organization's national shelter director, Costin travels frequently to the charity's West Coast locations in Oreland, California and Los Angeles, while being located in the East Farm Sanctuary is working to eradicate all forms of cruelty on agricultural land and property as part of its purpose. The group also seeks to alter the perceptions of the general public and educate them about other living things. The charity's members hope that by doing this, more people would think about removing animals from their meals. Costin's job as the director in charge of Farm Sanctuary's shelters is crucial, since they are an essential part of the organization's operations. Nearly 1,000 animals, including pigs, horses, cattle, and other exotic species, are housed in 3 different sites. All of the animals at Farm Sanctuary have been saved from the danger and abuse that they endured while working in the farming sector. Thus, a team from Farm Sanctuary anticipated expanding the number of animals accepted into their East Coast sanctuary in January 2018. The charity received information about a group of abused animals who were in dire need of assistance from the group. The animals in question were allegedly living in filth at a Cattaraugus County, New York ranch. Costin was on the rescue squad that day, and regrettably, she was familiar with the property that was being looked at. 100 pigs that were living at the address without a shelter in bitter cold were saved by Farm Sanctuary back in 2003. Some of the unfortunate creatures had even frozen to the ground, which was unbelievable. Costin and the rescue group were thus bracing themselves for what they might discover this time. Even so, they were astounded by what was in store for them that day. Upon arriving at the location, Costin and her colleagues could have looked at the enormous, dilapidated, boarded-up barn first. It was probably the seasoned shelter director's hunch that something horrible was being concealed behind its dilapidated walls. But it was her duty to look into it, regardless of how dire things were within the dimly lit outbuilding. So, with her torch, Costin carefully pulled open the creaky barn door. The woman was instantly overcome by the foulest smell as soon as she did. Large volumes of animal excrement were the source of the overpoweringly pungent scent, which was so intense that it started to burn in Costin's eyes. Even yet, in the pitch-black inside of the windowless barn, the rescue worker managed to make out something horrifying. Several scared eyes were staring at her out of the shadows, and Costin could see them all too clearly. But she didn't really get the tragedy of the rescue until she turned on her headlamp. Numerous pig convicts were jam-packed inside the dilapidated outhouse. Upon closer examination, Costin discovered that every animal was in appalling condition. The poor creatures were so emaciated that the rescue crew could really see their bones through their mange-infested, scabby skin. Furthermore, a large number of the pigs were compelled to live in small cages composed of metal wire. A few had cuts, while others were malformed and unable to move at all. The gang had been made to dwell in enormous piles of their own feces up to their knees. As a result, a large number of the pigs were clearly ill, and several of the piglets were constantly coughing. The Cattaraugus County farm was the scene of an animal horror by all accounts. "I couldn't stand to be inside for even a few minutes," Costin said, recalling the terrifying scene in the barn to the animal interest website, The Dodo. I can't begin to comprehend what it was like to reside there. They were forced to live in complete darkness their entire lives. Costin must have shuddered when he discovered the barn was simply one of the property's outbuildings. Over 85 pigs in distress were found by Farm Sanctuary in various barns and trailers. Many of them were so thin that their weight was just half of what one would anticipate from a healthy member of the species. And the conditions of those with broken hooves and malformed limbs were much more miserable. The majority of the latter were young pigs who had been trodden on or crushed by other pigs while they were asleep. However, a few of the other infants lacked protection and were exhibiting severe frostbite. Tragically, one litter was just a day old, and because of the horrible living circumstances the animals were in, rescuers arrived too late to save 8 of the 17 newborns. The next task for Costin and her rescue crew was to do some emergency triage. There, they were able to remove 24 of the sickest pigs and piglets. The majority of these animals were hoisted to the neighboring Watkins Glen shelter so that skilled caregivers could tend to them. Nevertheless, the animal hospital at Cornell University in Ithaca was called upon to provide intensive care for 3 of the pigs. It was discovered that the extreme winter cold had caused pneumonia in all of the pigs that needed to be saved. A few of them had the worst skin diseases the seasoned Costin had ever seen. The mange on a large number of the pigs is so bad that the tissue in the ears is dead, smells rotten, and is very painful and itchy, she stated to the Dodo. Many of the formerly imprisoned animals were experiencing difficulties adapting to the normal environment in addition to their physical disabilities. Regarding the ailing, malnourished, and dehydrated pigs, Costin remarked, "Everyone is scared. When we brought these pigs to safety, I've never seen them drink like this. It was as though they had never truly had access to water." The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals intervened to take control of the remaining pigs on the site after Farm Sanctuary's rescue operation. Authorities detained Jerry Nason, the landowner, in the interim. This was the same person who had been involved when Costin had been made to go there previously. Although Nason was put on probation and prohibited from having animals for 3 years as a result of the 2003 Farm Sanctuary inquiry, it was clear that this was not enough time for Nason to learn his lesson. Still, Costin's top concern just now was the sick pigs under her care. Costin was optimistic about the animals' future, even though she claimed to have seen some of the sickest creatures she had ever seen. "At this point, our objective is to get these pigs healthy," she stated to the Dodo. One of Farm Sanctuary's guiding principles, which is to save farm animals from suffering by simply refusing to eat them, served as the basis for the long-term strategy. According to Costin, these pigs will be able to be adopted into vegan or vegetarian homes as companions.